So I'm Mark Board, your Student Learning Advisor. So this is going to be your dissertation design workshop. So some of it's quite generic. Obviously there'll be a lot of you from different courses and stuff. So we're trying to have a few examples in there, a few tasks and stuff for you guys to do, so it's not just me standing staring at you and talking at you all day, okay? So this is the kind of outline of the workshop for today. So what topic you would choose, and then onto dissertation structure, specifically focus on lit review and methodology. Effective research and writing, so a little bit about critical thinking, a little bit about critical writing, and then a wee bit of time management and planning at the end. What topic? What's the kind of consensus in the room? Are we all chosen our topics? Hands up who's chosen our topic. Okay, hands up who's not chosen our topic. So I'll quickly go through this. Some of it will be still relevant to those of you who have chosen their topic already. So top tips for choosing your topic. Be inclusive in your thinking, so when you're choosing your topic, don't kind of go in with any preconceived ideas or anything like that. You might have some ideas of what you want to choose. Thinking, as I was saying, so broaden your horizons, maybe think of new things that you've not thought about before. Read through other dissertations, that's always a good one. So get ideas to what other people have done. It doesn't have to be from Napier, it can be from any university. So see what other people have done, see where the gaps are in the research, maybe something's been done that's similar to what you're doing. Focus your research, so try and focus it on one bit. It's not too wise to have it too broad a topic, because you're not going to be able to get the detail in that you need, and the things like your lit review and stuff. Be realistic about time. So for the master's one, how long roughly have you got to do your dissertation?
August 18th.
August 30th?
August 18th.
August 18th, yeah. From when did you start?
April.
April, yeah. So a few months there, so be realistic about time. Everyone wants to kind of do groundbreaking research and things like that, but you've got to be aware of how much time you've got to be able to write a really good piece. Organise your research around a set of questions. So what's your hypothesis, what's your research question going to be? Get started on your lit review early on. That's probably going to be your main chunk of writing. It's something you can do quite early. So again, as well, it's good to get it done early because it gets you engrossed into the topic as well. So you'll be reading lots of things, writing about lots of things, and that'll get you kind of your brain ticking over and learning about the subject. Stick with your topic unless there's any serious issues. That's something you can talk about with your supervisor. And your topic should advance knowledge and understanding. So as I was saying, read through other dissertations. So there's no point in going, you read this dissertation, oh that sounded great, I'm just going to do the same thing. There's no point in that. You want to try and advance the field that you're working in. Okay? So research hypothesis question. So creating that, what do you expect to happen within your study? Again, it's different across different genres. So you've got your sciences, humanities and things like that. So it does depend on what it is that you're going to be studying. The hypothesis research questions should be decided before you start your research. Again, it can change. The more reading and stuff you do, the more you'll become aware of different things within the subject area, so it might evolve and change as you go on. But before you start your actual testing or anything like that, if it's a scientific study, then your research question has to be set in stone. Again, so doing this allows you to focus your literature, so your reading, your methodology, and then obviously your results. So are you trying to prove or disprove a theory or a statement? So we'll get on to dissertation structure. So this is kind of a basic dissertation structure. You've got abstract, table of contents, introduction, lit review, methodology, results discussion, conclusion, reference list, and appendices. Is everyone kind of familiar with this kind of structure? Will anyone's dissertation that they're doing, their structure deviate massively from this, or is it kind of set one? Okay, that's good stuff. Always check your guidelines when you're putting your one together. So again, it will differ throughout different schools. So abstract, usually around 250 words. Again, check your guidelines. Should describe your research in condensed terms. So the focus on this is basically, if you guys have all read lots of literature, lots of research papers, you go in and read the abstract, it gives you an understanding of what the paper's about. So why did you do the study or project? What did you do and how? So your methods. What did you find? Your results. And then what do your findings mean? So it's a good idea to kind of take a sentence or two from each section of your of your study. So a sentence from the introduction, methods, results, discussion and conclusion. So that'll kind of form your abstract. Again, it's probably the last thing you'll do as well. So once you've done your whole paper, then the abstract's the last little bit you'll put together. So introduction. So readers should be able to identify the main aims and objectives of your research. So that's your research question or your hypotheses. Why or how you chose your topics. So why or how you chose your topics. So the reasonings you chose your topics. So is there a gap in the research that you've identified? The scope of your research. So how wide are you going to take it, or what's your focus going to be? Limitations of your work. Everyone's research is going to have limitations. You can't, as we said, you've got to be aware of time, resources, things like that. So you can't study everything. There might be a theory, and it's got 2 or 3, 4 different components. You might have to focus on two of them instead of all of them. So just how much work you can actually fit in. How have you organised your dissertation? So it's important to signpost to the readers what's going to happen in your dissertation, what are you going to take them through. So what are you going to discuss, so they know what's coming up. How your research follows on from previous work. Again, identifying a gap maybe, or if you're reading through other dissertations, they always have a limitation section at the end, or they have a bit at the end for further research. That's always good to go to if that's an area that you're looking at. Go to that bit and you'll see that they've put there could be an advancement in the study, and that's something maybe you can pick up on and do. So what your research adds to the existing body of knowledge. As I said, there's no point in just looking at a research paper and then copying it. It's not going to add anything to the area. So what you want to do is you want to come up with something new or advance someone's research from before. Okay, so on to the literature review. This is probably going to be your main part of your write, probably 3,000, 4,000 words. Offers an account of the published literature for a research topic. So your topic, what literature is out there, what you're going to present to the reader. Conveys the main ideas that have been established on that topic. So if you Google or go into Scholar or onto the journal article websites, you can, for example, if you're a sports and you're looking at anxiety, you could Google anxiety in sport and you'll come up with thousands of journals. But you want to try and pick out the ones that are going to be relevant to you. So maybe your search is going to have to be a bit more specific there. So conveys the main ideas that have been established on the topic. Evaluate strengths and weaknesses of those ideas. So that's getting into critical thinking. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. So how do we actually present? You can read all these papers and go, okay, that's good, but how do we actually present this in our literature review? How do we get all these good marks that the lecturers want? Informs how these ideas guided or informs your own research. So as I said, you'll read all these papers and then maybe you might come up with an idea for your research paper. So how is all this reading you've done informed your research? Again, gaps, things like that. Okay. So getting started on your literature review. So you should not just describe what one writer says, then go on and give a general overview of what another author says, and then another, and so on, and so on, and so on. What do we think we need to do when we're writing? Instead of just saying, okay, this author says this author says that, this author says this. What do we need to do? Any ideas?
What's it mean? What's the impact?
Yeah, so being critical. Yeah, we need to be critical of the research. We're going to get on to how we do that. We see master's students, things undergrads. You've come across critical thinking before, critical writing yet? It's just how we kind of harness that and produce that in our literature review. Because that's the main thing you want to do in your literature review, is be critical. Okay? So it should be dictated by topic areas, gaps in the research, controversial issues, or by questions to which these are varying approaches and theories. Okay? Group together and compare and contrast varying opinions of different writers on certain topics as well. So that's the structure you're looking for. So, for example, if you had if you're contrasting two theories, so if you had the two, you would write about the first one and write about the next one, and at the end you bring them both together. Yeah. So you're dividing up so the reader knows what they're going to be. So there's no point in jumping back and forward, back and forward, back and forward, because the literature review is not going to flow, and it's not going to be easy to read. And at the end of the day, you're presenting this, you're giving this to your supervisor. You want them to be able to read it easily. They're not going. You don't want them to get annoyed when they're reading it and going, okay, where's he going with this? Where's he going with that? Yeah. So it needs to flow through. To do that, linking words are probably the best thing to do. So if you're talking about things, grouping writers with similar opinions, link things with similarly, in addition, furthermore, again, and then if there's authors that disagree with what you said, however, on the other hand, conversely, nevertheless. Yeah? There's a good website out there, if you just go on Google and just type in academic phrase bank. I think it is Manchester University. That's always worth a look. So structuring your lit review. It's kind of the funnel approach, as we kind of call it. So begin with a wide but brief overview of the field. So if you were, my undergrad dissertation topic was anxiety in golf putting. Okay, so to start with, an broad overview would be to start with anxiety. That would be my broad overview. So that would be the top. And then working down, you go into anxiety in sport, then anxiety in golf, then anxiety in golf putting. So you're starting off with a nice broad overview, giving the reader examples of the topic area. So getting in the field, because you'll know it, but if someone reading it doesn't really know the subject area, then they need to kind of know the background of it. So that's what you want to focus on first. Again, so narrow to a discussion of the research relevant to your specific topic. So as I said with that example, I've got anxiety is the big one, and at the very end you're narrowing it down to what I was exactly looking at, so that I was golf putting anxiety. Top tip, have a look at published research to see how literature reviews have been structured. So they will be structured in slightly different ways, but reading ones on maybe in your topic area will give you different ideas of how to structure it. Okay, so in the body of your literature, organise your discussion of sources according to the research methodology and purpose or objective. So it's up to you how you structure. Again, I gave you the example of you're contrasting two different theories, then you would have one, then the other, and then bring them together. That's not always the case. So you could group them by research methodologies, so you could have a wee section on people who have used the same type of research methods. You could, their objectives, so if they're all looking at the same type of area, the research question was quite similar, you could group them in that way. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. Does anyone, any ideas, other ways you could group your lit review into different topics? So again, with my example of the anxiety in golf, so I had the people who were talking about anxiety in general, then you would onto golf and sport and so on. So keeping it all kind of relevant, so the reader's not jumping back and forward between different things. Okay, summarise sources in much detail as each one merits. So there will be lots of research papers out there on your topic. Some of them might be exactly what you're looking for. Some of them might just a little bit touch base with your topic. You've only got a certain amount of words, so you don't want to waste up your word count explaining and talking about different research papers that aren't exactly relevant to your topic. So if it's a little bit touch base with you, then mention it, and then go on to the ones that are more specific to you. Okay. Again, so signal the direction of your arguments with signposts. So all the different words we were talking about there. Just keeps everything flowing and keeps the reader knowing where they're going. Okay. So structuring your lit review number 3. So getting towards the end. So summarising major contributions to the body of knowledge under review. So again, if we're talking about theories, things like that, there will be a starting point for the theory. It could be 50 years ago, it could be 100 years ago. Sometimes it is good to just acknowledge that theory. So it started off with David, 1950. Obviously when we're talking about research and specifically in scientific terms, you don't really want to go back more than 10, 15 years because everything develops so quickly. But it is good to just touch base with these things, just to show the reader, show your supervisor that you've acknowledged where the research came from, and where's it going from, and where's it progressed from that point. Okay, so evaluate, so these are the areas you probably want to look at when you're being critical. Again, we're going to get onto that later. So methodological flaws, inconsistencies, gaps in the research, and issues requiring further study. And that's maybe what will guide you. Okay? And your conclusion, to conclude, offer insight into the relationship between the main topic and the larger area of study. So obviously your topic might be quite specific, but how does this relate to the wider context in that area, in the wider world? Again, if it's, I could give explore examples, but if you're looking at, I don't know, running in a heat chamber or something like that, then how does that relate to athletes when they're competing in hot temperatures, something like that. So how does it actually relate to the wider world? There's no point in having your research and go, that's great, but what does it mean to everyone else? Yeah? Okay, so most common problems in a lit review. So it doesn't follow the topic identified, so strays off and talks about different things that aren't really important. Again, trying to keep focus on what the topic is that you're doing. Badly structured, so there's no flow, it's kind of jumping between different ideas. Inappropriate writing style, so not formal enough maybe. Poor grammar and punctuation. And incorrect or inadequate referencing. Too much, too little or irrelevant material. Expression not clear, so that's a good one. You might say something. So this person says, blah blah blah. But this person said that this theory is not true. You need to express what that means in your topic area. You can't just give a line and say, David 2005 says this. So what does that mean in the realms of your study? What does it actually relate to? So it doesn't relate results to research questions, so when you're saying in your results, you need to specifically say in your discussion part that your hypothesis was proved or not proved, in black and white writing. And an unnecessary use of jargon as well. So using terms that you know what they mean, maybe, but the reader doesn't know what they mean. So we've got to explain everything, yeah? Any ideas of how we could eradicate some of these problems? If anyone wants to pick any and shout out. So how would we tackle the issue of badly structured? How would we do that?
Put it in a smart format, identify who, what, when, where, why, how.
Yeah, that's good. Cool. So this is a wee lit review checklist. So identify the specific research question your lit review will review. Not too broad, not too narrow again. So, example, if you were too broad would be, if you're looking at business, too broad might be the marketing strategies of electronics companies. So that's a massive area. Too much for you to write about. Too narrow might be the marketing strategies of Apple iPads on Channel 4. That's one advert in every 1,000 or something. A middle ground might be select a few companies' marketing strategies and report on them. So it's trying to find something that is specific enough, but enough that you can find enough information on it. Too broad, you've got too much stuff to look at. Too narrow, you've not got enough. So trying to find that middle ground. So define the scope of your literature review. So are you reviewing theories, methodologies, policies? Are you looking at quantitative or qualitative data as well? So what's the most important thing to you to review in your lit review? Again, it will change throughout different faculties. So scientific terms, you'll be looking at methodologies, policies, obviously business and stuff like that. Critically analyse the literature cited. So remember, it's not just a list of all the sources you've read and cited. So it's not just you saying X, Y, and Z have said this and this and this. It's really getting into it and getting involved in the literature. Include sources contrary to your perspective. So you need to give a balanced view. That's all about being critical, as we're going to get on to. So it's all well and good saying all this data, all this research supports what I say, but there are different views out there, so you need to show that you've looked at these different views, rejected them, maybe why you've rejected them,